You made it! You're here for the B-side for May 2018. This is a good one. I have a lot of albums to talk about that I heard, even more to show off, and I'm giving away a record. Just kidding. I'm not giving away a record. I'm giving away 2 records! Alright, let's break into it. The first album is Black Moth Super Rainbow Panic Blooms. If you've been a fan of this channel for years, you will know that I talk about Black Moth Super Rainbow a lot. They are one of the best psychedelic pop outfits around. Tobacco is the main guy in it. He has a side project that's a little more industrial and heavier and grungier, but the BMSR stuff is really nice and fun to listen to and ethereal, and the new album, Panic Blooms, was quite good. I wouldn't say it's as good as kind of that early era of the Dandelion Gum Eating Us and Cobra Juicy kind of delicious trifecta, but I will say it is definitely worth a listen and one of his most mature albums to date. It's one that I definitely have to spend more time with in order to really unpack what he's doing, but I liked it on first listen front to back. Arctic Monkeys, Tranquility Base Hotel and Casino. That's a mouthful. This album was an earful, and I don't mean that in a good way. I don't know what they're doing. I listened to it, and about halfway through, I was just like looking around at people that weren't there, and I was like, what is going on? It was a very bizarre album. It was almost like an Alex Turner solo project that shouldn't have ever been released, just like a passion project for him and him. I don't know. Something about it just lost me. You know what it felt like? It felt like a jazzier version of a Mark Kozelek album these days. It was just rambling with strange lyrics and kind of lounge music behind it. It didn't have any hooks that I love Arctic Monkeys for. Overall, this was a definite miss for me. Courtney Barnett, tell me how you really feel. Everyone was super excited for her third album because the first 2 were just unbelievable. This album for me was great, but I don't know if I like it more than her previous stuff. Now, I've only spent a little time with it. I've heard it twice, and I really like the grungier, kind of edgier feel to this album. It's a little darker and a little less psychedelic and experimental than the previous stuff, but for some reason, some of the songs were just kind of boring to me. There were some really great songs on there, but again, the whole thing, front to back, wasn't something that I was like wowed by on first listen. She's incredibly talented though, so I'm excited to dive in further. I'm sure it will grow on me. CHVRCHES, Love is Dead, their third album as well. I will say this, I liked it more than their second album on first listen. Not as much as their first. That first album is just fire. But this album is not very experimental. I like CHVRCHES because of the weird sounds they do, some of the kind of more unprecedented things in synth pop, which is what they kind of got known for on their first album. And this one felt very safe. Some of it almost felt like a David Guetta song or something that was a little more mainstream pop electronic than I was used to from them. So I liked it. I thought it was a good listen, but I didn't love it, and I'm hoping that maybe it'll grow on me. I don't know. What do you think about the new CHVRCHES? And my favorite album that came out this month is the legendary Jon Hopkins' Singularity. Jon Hopkins is one of those electronic artists that just does not miss. He has a pretty big body of work. I would say he's most known for Immunity, but this album is a worthy addition to his catalog if I've ever heard one. It comes on, if you got the limited version, these really nice translucent blue discs that I think they match the cover very nicely. I love a deep translucent blue. And this album really surprised me. I loved the 3/4 of it that was very kind of ambient techno-y. It had that kind of tech house feel at times, but mostly down tempo and just really easy to listen to while still getting your, BPM up in your heart. And then there was one side of it that was ambient. It was just this beautiful side. I think it was side C. That was just this beautiful ambient interlude, and then it went right back into the kind of more in-your-face stuff. But this is an incredible album, and I'm stoked to say that Golden Voice just announced that they are going to be doing a Jon Hopkins show in LA. It's going to be at the Fonda Theater, and I am absolutely going, so Golden Voice, you rock for getting someone as amazing as Mr. Hopkins on your lineup for this year's concerts. I better see you there. No news for this video, but let's jump into something even more exciting than news. A giveaway. I am wearing this shirt in solidarity for my friend Kaylin West, aka Tiny Stills. Cool shirt, right? Because she has just released a new album, Laughing Into the Void, and it is spectacular. I'm not just saying that because she's a friend of mine. This album is power pop perfection. The thing about this is it doesn't have the same genre throughout the album. It bends and folds and goes into elements of folk, elements of rock, elements of emo. elements of punk in even one or two songs, which was really cool and unexpected. This album will take you on a journey, and it's so incredibly personal. Something about her lyricism is relatable to anybody, and something about her production, which she mostly did herself, sounds a lot like Adam Schlesinger style production, which, as you guys know, huge Fountains of Wayne fan, huge fan of him in general. So that's a huge compliment, and I mean it. Tony Thaxton, her husband, is drumming on the album, who is the drummer from Motion City Soundtrack, one of the best emo rock bands ever. Take a look at this record with me. We have this beautiful art on the front, Laughing Into the Void. It's kind of like the juxtaposition of it on the back. It's like a destroyed home, and then this is supposed to be modeled after her apartment, which is cool, and she signed it on top, which is rad. And it is on colored vinyl, because all the best records are. It's this really nice kind of cloudy blue and white, lightly marbled. It looks great, it sounds great, and this album is just wonderful. I think anybody could get into this album, and that's why I am giving away not one, but 2 copies of this record. I know, I'm super generous. If you don't know who Kaylin West, aka the frontwoman of Tiny Stills, is, there are 2 places you can learn more. One, we did a video with her and Tony Thaxton maybe like a year ago. It's an awesome interview. I will link to that. Make sure you check it out, as well as the podcast episode we just did. Her and I sat down and dissected this album, music in general, talked about some TV shows we like. It's a really good episode, and I recommend checking that out. I will link to that as well. Giving away 2 records. This contest is open to literally anyone who watches these videos, because I love you guys. I am going to mail these out to the winners, and the way you win is the same way you win most of these B-side giveaways that I've been doing lately. Go to the Bandcamp link. The album released today. Go listen to the album. Love the album, because you're going to. Leave a comment, say whatever you were going to say about the video, but also say what your favorite track is on the album. If you say your favorite track, you are entered to win one of 2 copies of Tiny Stills' Laughing Into the Void. I look forward to hearing what tracks you guys like the most. And now I want to shine a quick spotlight on a label that is incredibly underrated, and true record collectors who care about audio fidelity and quality releases know this label, but if you're kind of new to the hobby, or you don't really know about a lot of labels that aren't the big ones, you're going to want to check out Org Music. Is it Org? O-R-G? I don't know. I've known about Org for a long time because they are a reissue label who do excellent reissues ranging from stuff like jazz, blues, country, all the way to stuff like alt-rock, shoegaze. It's all over the place, but they only reissue albums that need it and that are awesome. I own this copy of Ben Folds 5, Whatever and Ever Amen, which is probably their best album. Has some of their best hits like Brick, Kate, Battle of Who Could Care Less. Great album and great pressing. And I remember when I heard this, I was like, wow, this is a really good reissue. It doesn't sound like garbage like so many reissues can sound like these days. So, fun fact, I was record hunting the other day, and I stumbled upon an incredibly rare record that happens to be pressed by Org. This is Nirvana's Incesticide. This record is not easy to find the colored versions of, so when I saw a copy of this, and it had the clear vinyl, I lost my mind a little bit as a big grunge Nirvana fan. The clear vinyl version of this was pressed by Org, and it, like I said, you don't come across this every day. This was a huge get for me, and when I realized that Org pressed this, I was like, wow, that makes perfect sense. It's gonna sound good. It's gonna be a good quality inner sleeve with the excellent poly line on the inside, and it's because I think exclusively, or at least for the majority of the time, they press their records at Palace in Germany, which is one of the best plants in the world. Every record I've ever received that was pressed at Palace sounds excellent, including my copy of Nevermind that Org also pressed. I'm just talking about this label because they're amazing, and you should look at their catalog and seek out their titles, because if they have pressed something that you like, you're gonna want to own it. For example, I recently grabbed Stoneflower by Antonio Carlos Jobim, who is one of my favorite Brazilian artists. This is one of his best albums. Of course, Org pressed it. So this is another one I added to my collection just because, as you guys know, I'm a huge fan of Brazilian music. And this label can do no wrong. Check out their site. I'll link to it in the description. And look at what they've pressed. They've pressed a lot of things, and you can't go wrong with any of them. All right, let's talk about another label I love, Enjoy the Ride. They have some good releases out recently, one of which I want to talk about is the 8-Bit Time Paradox. I'm a huge gamer, as you guys know. I'm a sucker for video game vinyl, and this is just reimagined hits from a bunch of different games. I'm going to be honest, I bought this entirely for Side A. Side B are things that I'm not a huge fan of, but it was worth it for Side A alone. incredible versions of songs from Metroid, Zelda Breath of the Wild, Final Fantasy VII, Ocarina of Time, and Mega Man. And it comes on this really cool cartridge gray with this kind of retro Game Boy label. This was just a really well done release. It's a love letter to people that love nostalgia gaming, and the record itself sounds really good. I know that they are low on stock currently based on their site, so you're going to probably want to jump on this if you're interested in some sweet video game tunes. I also couldn't resist this nostalgia buy. As ETR is good with nostalgia, this is the Men in Black soundtrack.
Composed by Danny Elfman, really?
Yeah.
Seriously?
What hasn't Danny Elfman done? This was cheap on their site. They have this on sale, I think, for 15 bucks. This is just a fun soundtrack, and Danny Elfman, as you just said. Then also, if you're a fan of Club Dread, we have The Best of Coconut Pete, aka the character played by Bill Paxton. This is just a fun novelty too. I like my 7-inch records to be novelties, weird things, kind of fun trading card-like things. I don't get them all for the music, but this is going to get some spins. Here's something that I'm actually really excited to show you. Vinyl Moon's most recent volume, Static in Motion, is a really special one that's near and dear to my heart because it is entirely vaporwave, and I co-curated it with Brandon, who's the owner of Vinyl Moon. He reached out to me because he knew I was a huge fan, and he was like, hey, help me find some artists that are in the vaporwave scene, so I started throwing a whole bunch at him, and we worked together and reached out to some of the artists that had, you know, stuff that wasn't copyrighted, because a lot of the stuff in the vaporwave community is, you know, sample-based and impossible to clear. So some of the best original vaporwave tunes made it to this incredible compilation. I am so excited with how it came out. The art is done by Keith Rankin, who is known in the vaporwave world for doing so many different covers and J-cards for cassettes. He also owns the label Orange Milk, which does a bunch of great vaporwave releases, as well as just experimental music. This is a super cool jacket. It has these inserts where you can change what some of the die cuts have on the inside, and the record itself looks beautiful. I'm super stoked that I got to be a part of this amazing release. Really nice, clear with blue and black wisps on the inside. It's just beautiful. And the track list, which, you know, I'm a little biased because I helped decide it, is awesome. All of these artists are great. I'm gonna give them all a shout out right now. We have Otto, Lucid Sound Driver, Donovan Hikaru, Satin Sheets, Esprit, Catcorp, Valerie, Omni, Stack Overflow, Fantasy, Power Windows, and that's all she wrote. So if you like vaporwave and you like vinyl, you know that vaporwave vinyl is not super prevalent. They have a bunch of albums now, but not everywhere, and the ones that are out of print go for stupid money. So you're probably going to want to jump on this Vinyl Moon Static in Motion Volume 33. I just want to real quick just promote this album. I don't know this artist, never spoke to them, never was reached out to by them. This was just a recommendation from someone that was a huge hit. Sly Fifth Ave, The Invisible Man, an orchestral tribute to Dr. Dre. This is just this amazing orchestral rendition of most of Dre's hits, including stuff Dre just produced, like My Name Is and stuff for Snoop. It is such a good listen. These musicians are incredible on this album, and I don't know if it's out of print yet. If it's not, you gotta go just listen and buy it immediately. You will not regret it. This was such a great impulse buy. If you're a Dre fan and you like orchestral hip-hop, buy it. And finally, Mr. Jeff Ament from Pearl Jam released, I think, his third solo studio album, Heaven Hell. And it features Angel Olsen on the main single, and the whole album itself really surprised me. I didn't think I would like it as much as I did. It's a really experimental, fun, intriguing, high-powered listen, and I got it through the 10 Club, which is Pearl Jam's fan club, and they said the first 400 orders came on colored vinyl. Well, I hoped I was in the first 400. I was. And then when I saw the record, my mind was just blown, because it is way cooler than I thought it would be. I thought it would be just like a blue or a white or, you know, a yellow. No, this thing is crazy. It's this clear with metallic splatter, metallic copper splatter. Oh my god, it is. I think I audibly gasped when I opened this because I didn't expect it to be so pretty. So 400 copies of that. If you like experimental rock, kind of unique stuff that you don't hear every day, and you like Pearl Jam, definitely give this album a listen. I'm happy I bought it. Alright guys, that was the B-side for May 2018. Hope you guys liked what you heard and saw. Good luck to those who entered the contest. As always, if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up, leave a comment, please subscribe, and of course you know I'll be giving you more videos soon.